Let's go. Come on. Let's see some clapping.
All right, working. Hello. Yeah, we're working.
Hello.
Check one,
I'll
check
sit.
two.
Do you want to switch? Yeah, check. Yeah,
Right,
we're
check.
good. Do you want to sit on the inside?
No, I'm good.
Great. Hi, everyone.
What's up, y'all? How y'all doing today? Everybody good?
We'll get started here in a second. Our conversation today is about brand building and mass adoption and things and steps we could take to move blockchain forward. We'll start with a quick introduction. I know most of you guys already know Champ and Claymates, and I'll let Roy speak about himself a little bit. But Champ, you want to do a quick intro?
Yeah, my background was sports. I grew up playing sports, and in a sense, I felt marginalized because success only looked like you're either a rapper or you're an athlete. And when I found out Web3 and NFTs were the next wave, I fully dived in. I didn't take a second. I jumped right in. And I remember telling Shiv, I'm like, yo, everything we doing right now, it doesn't matter as much as Web3. And we put everything behind us and just went all out. We made some bad buys, we made some bad decisions, but that's all about learning and going forward. And since then we've accumulated over 100 NFTs, worked on various blockchains, onboarded artists like Eminem, Wiz Khalifa, brands like Skechers, all because we believe in this space. And it's all about mass adoption. The more people in this space, the more empowered we all are as artists. So that's why I'm here today, because I believe in Cardano, I believe in the Claymates, I believe in entrepreneurs like Roy, and I'm thankful to be in the presence of everyone in this room today.
Thank you.
Lena, would you like to talk about Claymates in terms of a brand? It's one of the more powerful brands on the Cardano blockchain. Would you like to tell us how you built it and kind of what went into that?
Thank you. So I'll just give a really brief intro because I know a lot of you have already swung by our booth. Do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Izzy, co-founder of Claymates, and this is Lena, my co-founder and partner. We started Claymates. Yay!
You guys.
We launched Claymates back in April 2021, so like a year and a half ago. But I guess what really blew us up and why most people know us today is because of Clay Nation, our collectible profile picture avatars, and our Clay Nation Good Charlotte collection. Today we have 3 sold out NFT collections of about 51,000 digital assets, and we did that in a little over a year. So yeah, we've basically blown up, and we're here today to talk about a bit about our success and how we've reached that.
Yeah, and how we can bring more people through that success. So although we started as an NFT project, what we're trying to move towards now is being that brand that people recognize, that people know, and that people aren't afraid to kind of get involved with.
And I want to say something too, these are obviously female founders, and this space is predominantly ran by men. So, I would love for everybody to give a round of applause for 2 creators, going against the norm. Creating a successful project and showing representation that other women can do the same. And it's not all about the money, it's sometimes about just taking that risk and going out there and making a name for yourself. So shout out to y'all for doing that.
Thank you. You guys.
I'd like to also now introduce Roy. Roy's worked with various big-time tech brands in Web 2, now involved in creating a Web3 metaverse. I think it's important to hear from Roy about how important it is to bridge the two.
Totally, thanks, Shiv. Hi, everyone. My name is Roy. I've been coming from over a decade experience back in the Web2 gaming space since 2006, early on PopCap, Plants vs. Zombie days, till now. I dipped in full-time crypto in 2017, but really see a phenomenal paradigm shift for mass adoption using NFT and metaverse technology to bridge between the user from Web 2 to Web 3. And that's why we're all here for this conference and listen to this panel, I guess, right? But happy to share more of the insights in that, on how we can do this together.
So speaking on how we could do this together, Lena, you just said that this is your first year. It's been your first year doing this. In that short time, you've seen a lot of people come on board to the Clay Nation. How did you kind of go about that early on, and kind of what's your plan moving forward?
Yeah, so I think something that's so important when it comes, like, again, on topic of onboarding people is to be a space and to welcome people in a way that they can actually get involved without that worry, or they just, spark that bit of curiosity, and then people get involved. And we started, and I think Izzy actually has a pretty good comment on this about being very much like grassroots. We kind of were from the ground up. We started as an extremely small community when we first started.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Like, we launched, and when we launched, we were spending, every day on Discord chatting to our community. And I think in Web3 and what has been, a lot of our success has been attributed to our community and us building through that. And I think what Web3 offers is a direct link to that community, which is not always what you get in other industries. Like a direct communication channel with your audience and with your community, which really helps you build a brand which people actually love, because you're getting real-time feedback on that. And yeah. I think that's been hugely important to where we are today. And yeah, we built a community from zero.
We literally knew everyone in our community by name at the beginning. And we're still doing pretty well, actually, with that kind of personable connection that we have with so many members of our community. And it's been so nice coming to these events and meeting everyone. And I think it fosters growth, because we meet these people, we chat to these people, and they get to know our team and our brand and what we're doing, and then they go and tell their friends, and it kind of snowballs in that sense. And I think that's also a real, if you're approachable and accessible, people are going to get involved, and then from there.
And what we're seeing more and more is sort of passive community in a way, turning into a real active community. We get people building, learning new skills. We have people who had no experience in, for instance, Unreal or gaming programs, getting to know that because they want to use their Clay Nation avatar in an environment that they've created. So you get people who just, started as a hobby, bought a 40 ADA NFT a year ago, and now they are building their own things, and it's amazing to see.
One thing you guys said that kept coming up there was community, right? Champ, one of the big things that we talk about is how can we enlarge these communities and bring them in from your traditional media services or Web2 artists, entertainers, and that's something that we've worked on a lot over the last year. Would you like to explain a little bit on that?
Yeah, I work closely with a lot of musicians, so whenever I'm onboarding an artist, what I tell them is, look at the track record of music. We first started off with vinyl, then it went to cassettes, then it went to CDs, then it went to MP3, now we're streaming. So, I asked the artist, what do you think is next? And in my opinion, it's music on the blockchain. So, artists love to make music, and, they love to express themselves similar to NFTs. So bringing people into this space is sometimes hard, but I think the hard part is just the language and the boundaries of a wallet, and what does it mean to buy crypto, and, all the securities that come with it. What if I get hacked? And, because we speak about the pros, we speak about these huge numbers that NFT artists make, but sometimes we don't shine light on the cons of this side. And I know it's still the infancy stage, but if you have that optimistic mindset as an artist, you can really, reap the benefits of what this space has to offer, because essentially this is just creative empowerment and financial empowerment at the end of the day. And building your community, you want to have that direct contact. You don't want to have a middleman with Spotify, a middleman with YouTube, Instagram, all these various platforms that we're traditionally, used to, rather than just being on Twitter, being in environments where you could instantly talk to, a day one fan and release a song on the blockchain with Creative Commons, where if someone buys that song, they have the right to remix it, they have the right to republish it. And I think music have never seen something like that, because there's always been giants behind the scenes trying to take all the dollars. You got fans that's been spending money on artists for years, and now there's a time where you could buy that artist's song and you can say that you own it, and you can actually own it in real time. So I think that's just a beautiful way to really stay engaged with your community as a huge influencer.
Yeah, so you mentioned security there as well, right? Roy, I know from your background, this is something that you faced a lot in the Web 2 space. What would you recommend the steps that need to start being taken in the Web 3 space in terms of improving security? Because we spoke about this. In terms of mass adoption and bringing people on board, it's going to be very important for them to feel secure.
Right. Security is the first thing that people comes to mind. Like, what is my wallet? What is my asset? But really, if you're talking about the mass adoption, you're talking about the funnel analysis. If you really open up the funnel, you really look like, what is blockchain? What is crypto? What is a wallet? What's the other phrases? It's really hard for people to interpret, right? For a real mass adoption, it's like, how do you smooth, frictionlessly migrate existing Web 2 experience, where the most users are right now, to the Web 3 experience, and also provide a secure login. So that is something like a first and foremost issue we want to solve to bring Web 2 people on board. And then the trick is how smoothly educate these users over to adopt Web 3 assets in the music and in the PFPs and so on and so forth. I mean, I think from our strategy is like, people will self-educate as long as you show the value, as long as you show the utility. The community, back to the community will self-educate and thrive and iterate to tell each other, hey, this is something tangible right now, and then people will self-educate to understand what's the phrases and to make sure they're actually on board as their actual native Web3 users.
And I think what we're looking at now is projects are going to be coming out focusing on how to improve on these things. Lena, Izzy, how would you recommend and what advice would you give to projects that are now starting at an infancy stage on how to navigate through this market, through the different protocols that are coming out and things like that?
I'll just go first with a really straightforward one, which is to don't give up. Because I think right now it can be, especially if you wanted to start a project right now, there are some things that will seem like barriers, especially if it is a new space to you. But that learning can never stop. You have to keep learning and keep engaging, and you have to want it. Like, this isn't something that anyone can do. It's definitely a difficult space to navigate because it is different and it is new. But with that is absolutely where all that opportunity is as well. Because it's new, it's also one of the biggest opportunities right now.
Yeah, I mean, going slightly back to the security point, I think it's really important that projects do their due diligence as well as the customers and the consumers and the audience in terms of security, because it is like a battle that everyone has to fight against, because at the moment it is this a wave of like scams and things which are putting off so many people from the space. So I think it's incredibly important for yes, us, everybody to do what they can to sort of prevent that, but also for projects to help enforce that as well, because that at the moment is a huge barrier, I think, to the average person getting involved, because they think they're going to get scammed, they think they're going to get hacked. And think
people are getting hacked.
And they are, and it's honestly crap. And I think like the space it's got a bit of a way to go in terms of that. But yeah, it definitely should be at the forefront of what people are doing, because it's a huge barrier, and I think there are still so many people out there who think that the whole thing's a scam, basically.
Yeah, like if a project has got the foundations and has that education at the forefront of it, then there's going to be more chances that more people are going to join in.
You know, we talked about education of the space being so valuable. You know, Champ, I'm going to kind of pivot a little bit. You were able to educate your father, Snoop, on the space and kind of show him the value. And this is someone who's been an established artist for 30 plus years. How are you able to show him a whole new world in terms of technology and monetization?
I just, like, growing up, I always was able to have that line of communication with him. I remember when I first created my Instagram account back in like 2011 or something like that. And a few weeks later, Nick Adler, one of our close business partners, he brought the Instagram guys to our house. And they were explaining the app to my dad, and he really didn't understand it. So I just sat down and showed him, like, look, this is my Instagram page. I got this picture. I get this many likes. You can comment. You can change the filter. And he was instantly able to digest that information. And just, you know, looking back at all the times there were new technologies and, you know, he would lean on his kids for the information. It was similar to Web3 starting. You know, he didn't understand it. So I sat down with him and told him, like, look, the DSPs are giving pennies on a dollar to artists, no matter how many streams you gather. You know, he gets billions of streams, but he doesn't see billions of dollars from that. And it's because the middleman, like I'm saying. So I pretty much told him Web3 is a decentralized space where you, as an artist, are empowered and you can directly speak to your community, no matter what. And for years, you know, he would complain about not owning the masters to his first album, Doggy Style. And I would tell him, like, yo, you gotta look at what Taylor Swift did. She didn't own her catalog, so she recreated her album, re-recorded all the masters, and told her fan base, don't listen to that album, listen to this one I just recreated. And her fans did just exactly that. So over time, you know, it finally registered with him. We did a couple successful Web3 projects, and he ended up buying Death Row Records. And, you know, instantly it was a full circle moment for him because he was able to re-release some of those songs. He was able to, you know, pull artists from Death Row that weren't making money at the time and put them on our project, Death Row NFT on OpenSea. And for 30 days, we released 260 songs. And we made a total of $3.5 million. So, you know, we onboarded a lot of OG rappers and showed them what MetaMask was, showed them what Ethereum was, showed them what Cardano was. And it was tough, but, you know, we got through that learning curve, and I feel like, you know, we onboarded millions through that because these artists have huge fan bases. And, you know, once your fan base see that you're doing it, they kind of get more confidence to do it themselves.
And right there, it kind of shows the value of music in this space in terms of mass adoption and reaching that audience. Roy, you're working on gaming, right? So that's another large market. What's your thoughts on bringing gaming into Web3, and how long is it going to take for that to really become massively adopted?
Totally. I mean, gaming is one of the largest consumer internet use cases out there. Name one, right? Consumer internet only makes money from three ways: advertising, e-commerce, and gaming. And most importantly, gaming is proven to be a cash cow. Look at all these gaming companies, look at other phones, how many games do you have in there? So think about the mass adoption perspective. Having the gamers coming to Web3, that's the first thing, user base. And think about the biz model you can adopt from traditional gaming to the Web3 gaming, which I will talk about later bit as a differentiator, but consider the existing established templated biz model you can carry over and inherit and then thrive. That's two big things. Now, a lot of people talk about crypto, about Aircoin and the speculation, but now think about you actually issue a token. You're gonna have a token working hand in hand with an actual viable cash flow business. We're talking about next generation. We're not talking about game market, as you know right now, it's 500 billion globally, right, across mobile, across consoles, whatsoever. Now we're talking about into trillions. We're talking about Web3 gaming, a trillion size biz model. Now, but the game in Web3 is definitely have a different kind of a show, a different mechanics. There's a completely new breed. So we need to be very creative and then ready to adapt from existing free-to-play or existing console game models to Web3. So a lot of innovation. We're just at the beginning of the whole journey.
And speaking on innovation, I know Claynation's working on something. If you guys want to speak on that a little bit as well.
On something.
A little something.
A little something.
Don't want to give away too much.
Over to you, to me? Yeah, sure. So we are building a virtual, expansive virtual social environment.
Or game.
Or game. And if you head to our booth today and tomorrow, you can see a little sneak peek into the development of that and how it's going. The environment's called Claynation, confusingly, as also our NFT project is called Claynation.
And everything else.
Yeah. And yeah, it's really going to be an open environment in which you can hang out with fellow Clays and fellow people and interact and explore. And in the future, we hope to host events and music and really synergize what we're bringing in with music and culture and arts into this virtual environment, which hopefully people actually want to hang out in. And
yeah, I mean, we've been really fortunate to hire an experiential designer who has worked on some huge festival sets and stages all across the world. And she found that when she was doing this in the real world, there were so many restrictions. She could only make a stage this tall, or it couldn't have spikes and blades coming out, so that was too dangerous. I'm just kidding. But basically now she's able to work in our virtual environment and do anything. And when we have that like when we're going through these motions and when we're at that level of scalability and people can experience this, it can be as anything that you imagine. And that's what we're really looking forward to exploring. And with our partnership with Champ and the team at Sneak Geek Squad, we're able to explore that with Baked Nation and really have some special events for our holders, but also for guests as well. We are an inclusive environment and we want to onboard the masses, so this is going to be something that everyone can enjoy.
Speaking on Champ, Champ's now more of a brand and a moniker that you've taken on. What kind of led to that? And now that you've become a Web3 presence with the Champ Medici name, what do you plan on doing moving forward?
You know, sometimes it's hard to get people to understand the digital side. So it was important for me to make the brand Champ Medici, and that would primarily focus on creating physical, tangible assets. And, you know, since then, we've created a NFT restaurant, you know, where you can actually go buy tacos and eat them and enjoy them, rather than just seeing everything on the blockchain or in your wallet. You know, I wanted to really not dumb it down, but make it more accessible amongst, you know, the masses, because that's who we're trying to onboard. So I felt like it would be easier to have a brand, have a personal alter ego where people could feel like they relate to that brand as well. And, you know, since then we've jumped in sectors like cannabis space. We've created our strain called Bored Eighth, and it's actually the #1 strain in cookies retail in all of California. And, you know, it's just fun to really be able to utilize your NFTs and utilize and take advantage of what's going on with this new curve as far as Web3. And we plan to do the same with Claymates and, you know, really trying to turn up the music as far as Creative Commons go. You're going to hear me say that a lot because I think it's so important for artists to make music and give their fans a chance to tweak it how they want, or remix it, or put it on a YouTube video, or, you know, do whatever they want to do with it in the traditional realm. But, you know, it being birthed on the blockchain will onboard people that aren't really accustomed to it. So, you know, I felt like it was important to build a brand so that we could, you know, walk people from Web 2 to Web 3.
In terms of utilizing IP, you led the charge in having Snoop and Eminem do a music video that was shown at the VMAs that led to a performance that had over 30 million views in the first few hours. What was that like? And you know, in terms of having the rest of the world kind of adopt NFTs, I think that went a long way. What was that process like, and how do you feel about the impact that left?
I mean, growing up, you know, Eminem was my favorite artist. Don't tell my dad that. But, you know, I was just like, I always loved Eminem. I think it was the movie 8 Mile. Like, it just made me love him even more. And then I remember we were in New York for NFT NYC last year, and we were at the Barclays Center, and I had walked outside, and Shiv and Amador told me, they like, yo, Jay-Z is in here, hurry up and come back. And I'm trying to come back, but the security won't let me in. So I'm stuck outside for 30 minutes. So right when I go back inside, who do I see? I see Paul Rosenberg, that's Eminem's manager. So I'm like, all right, I just missed Jay-Z. Let me try to onboard Paul, because I know he manages Eminem. So I instantly go up to Paul and I tell him like, yo, you know, Web3 is next, NFT. He looking at me like, what is this kid talking about? But at the end of the conversation, we got each other's contacts. And then I came back to New York a day after my birthday in February, and we sat down with him for about 2 hours, just explaining to him, you know, how would it work? Where do I see Eminem at in this space? And the low-hanging fruit for them were they just bought a Bored Ape. So, you know, he was trying to figure out how to utilize his Bored Ape. And I'm like, why won't you just make him the rapper for the Bored Ape? He was like, oh, that's cool. And I was like, well, maybe it should be Snoop and him, and they should do a song together, and that song should be a music video where they're the apes the whole entire time. And right after we left VCon, we flew to Detroit. I believe this was in June. We flew to Detroit, shot the music video. It got edited in 30 days, submitted it into the VMAs, and the VMAs wanted to have us perform during the actual awards, and it will be like the first ever metaverse performance at the VMAs. And you know, it took a lot of time to be able to really show them like, yo, this is where it's at, and you know, this is the future of how music can be released. You know, because M don't like to do music videos. He don't like to be seen in the public. So use your digital asset that you own and let them do the hard work while you sit at home. And you know, he loved that idea, and it was a success.
I think it really shows, you know, where we're at in terms of IP. And I think this is something that's going to be a common theme in moving Web3 forward is, you know, a new way to use your IP. You can't use any Web2 assets. Roy, like, you know, it's something that we personally speak about all the time. Is like in Fortnite, for example, you buy a skin, you're locked with that skin. You can't sell it. You can't trade it. How is Web3 going to change that?
First of all, it's no longer virtual goods. That's what you see in the Fortnite and other miscellaneous Web2 games. Now, traditional virtual goods are not becoming a digital asset. So that opens another door to a different dimension. We're talking about different assets has different utility. We're talking about smart contract and smartly interconnect these assets for different purposes, for GameFi purposes. We're talking about cross-bridging and chain adoption in terms of asset using on one chain now coming to Cardano, for example. So there's multiple utilities open phenomenal opportunities that the market has never seen before. So I see IP as we know it from traditionally a Disney IP that created from center, a house, a hub, now to community-driven IP creation from a perspective. From a community like Champ participate to really create a new music video, like really from grassroots up. That is a new way to generate IP, and the way definition of IP will completely change. I think that would be creating a big headache for our lawyers, but it's a good headache to have.
Agreed. I think that's something that we've seen. As the rules start to become defined and the regulations come down, to build through that, I think is very important. As Clay Nation and Claymates has been doing, have you guys been able to work around the ever-changing protocols and build through that?
It was definitely tricky because there's some stuff that we know is still not fixed. Like even now, the rules today are not the rules of tomorrow. So we have to be ever-changing, and conveniently, Clay is malleable. So we change shape, we go with it, and we'll continue to adapt to that and stick true to the rules and the information that we have now is what we're kind of working with.
Keep a strong eye on the States, basically.
Yeah.
So whatever's going on, whatever going on in the US is basically where,
It's also where a lot of our community is. So like I would say around 80% of our customers, and I say customers, our community, people that like Clay Nation and are a part of it right now, is around 80% from the US. So while we do want to diversify that and mix it up, we do need to stay focused and alert on what's going on in the US. That's really key. And with that, we're also doing things that aren't so such unknown ground. So we're obviously trying to build this out as a brand as well that's in the music space, which is a bit more easy to navigate, and in the kind of animation and art space as well. So kind of strengthening our brand through that.
Champ, for you, coming out of this bear market, going into a bull market, hopefully within the next year or so, what do you recommend in terms of directions to go to and what to focus on?
I would just say, like, it's honestly a blessing that we're in a bear market because the noise have left. And, you got the real builders, the real innovators that are here to stay. And, once everything goes back up, it's going to get back noisy again. But right now is where you really look for the next disruptor, the next game changer. And, I look on Twitter, I look on Discord, I'm on these type of platforms where these people are at, just staying focused on why are you here? I'm here because I believe that this is a no middleman area, no middleman zone where artists can fully be empowered. And platforms that provide that, that's where I'm at. Claymates is an example of that. They're all about their community. They're all about, rewarding people with what they promise. And, you know, that's why this relationship is so good. And the next step for me is, how do I bring the next Eminem? How do I bring the next Snoop Dogg, and so forth and so on, to keep onboarding masses? Because at the end of the day, that's what we need to make this, you know, a global effect. Because this is a small bubble we in. You know, not everybody believes in it like we believe it in this room. And you got to be mindful of that. Even though you're creating cool things and you're hitting milestones and you're doing great, you know, it's still a lot more people that don't believe in it. And it's still a lot of convincing you have to do. Yeah. And the best way to convince is through action. And, you know, I'm not much of a talker. I like to just do more than I say. So it's all about finding those brands that align with your core beliefs. And Claymates is one of them. And, you know, Roy is definitely one of them as well. Someone that can identify Web 2 and figure out how to bridge Web 3. And all this was found on Twitter. You know, I remember meeting with Joel from Good Charlotte, and he was just telling me how important Claymates was. And, you know, I already had some Cardano in my wallet, but I didn't own a Cardano NFT. So when he was telling me about it, I'm like, this is dope. Like, they do claymation. Like, I haven't seen claymation art since Chicken Run. Like, that was one of my favorite movies. So when I seen the project, I was like, this is so, like, dope. Like, and then when I found out Lynn and Izzy were the founders, I'm like, oh, this is a unicorn. Like, you don't come across projects like this. So, you know, it's all about just listening to your peers and really having your heart in it. Because if it's all about money, that passion gonna fizzle out, and you're gonna be lost, and you're just gonna be listening to a bunch of noise.
Yeah.
You spoke about
Thank you.
you spoke about a global effect, right? All of us were just in Singapore about 2 weeks ago, meeting for Token 2049 and F1, and we got to meet with a lot of investors and a lot of players in the tech space. Anyone can take this, but what did you notice in the international effect, and what was different in Asia as compared to here in terms of where they're at?
So that was just 2 weeks ago.
I know it feel like, I don't even know what it feel like.
It was really quite amazing to be able to be with you guys in Singapore, and we met a lot of really, really interesting people doing amazing things. And something that, I just kind of, I guess, wanted to comment on is that, like, our plans have never changed. Bull market, bear market, we've, like, kept going, and it's been, I think you're right, it has been like a real show of, like, who's going to be here in 5 years, 10 years? It's people that are still building now in this difficult time. And when we were in Singapore, we met people that were doing that. We met people that were motivated as ever, people working like, oh God, these guys don't sleep out there, actually. We met a lot of people that were just around the clock, working maybe a tiny bit too much, but it was kind of motivating. We met a lot of people who had great stories to share and gave us some amazing advice as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a great experience. And I think your first time in Singapore, our first time in Singapore, we were all like blown away by the food, the people, the drive. Like, it's actually not like anywhere I've ever been before. No. The people were super friendly and warm and like accepting of us, I think, and our like new venture. I mean, out there. So I think it was just overall like an extremely, extremely nice experience. And like, Singapore's got things going on for sure.
Yeah, 100%. It was definitely motivating, and people were so determined, and it kind of rubs off. You know, when you're around people that have that energy, it makes you want to go back and like double down.
I agree, and it was a lot of young creators too.
Yeah.
Like, you know, everybody up here on this stage is fairly young too, so you know, it felt good to be around your peers that's executing at a high level. Like Lynn said, you know, it just motivates you to want to come back to the States and, you know, provoke that same energy amongst anybody watching, because we kind of need that same fire and drive as well. Just because we are the States, we are number one, but sometimes we gotta remember that and just keep working hard. Like, that's what pushes innovation. You know, bear markets and recessions create innovators, in my opinion. You know, if you look back at all the times we've hit a recession, the biggest companies were started within that. So I believe the same will happen right now. You know, we just gotta stay focused and, you know, really understand the power of stillness and not be too accustomed to the noise.
Yeah. And just to, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Whatever not killing me now, make me better, stronger, right?
Yeah,
That's
it is true.
Yeah, we've been through this cycle since 2017, 15. We see that going through all over again, and this time is now no exception. But even bigger bull market right after us, because now we're looking at more people coming to this space. But to the point, like Asia, East and the West, I think definitely West is the center of innovation, but we see a lot of growth happening in Asia as well. I think the market now is especially for crypto, there's no geo kind of a block anymore. Everything runs on the blockchain. Everything runs on, different nodes. And especially during this period of time, we need some icons and some connector to bring the West and East together, to bring the Web 2 and Web 3 together, to bring the IRL and URL together, and who would be in the frontier to understand what's the youngsters looking at, but also talk to the legacy, see what kind of
You good?
make a noise, right? So
That noise I was talking
But
about.
that was Robert.
and then I think the perfect candidate for the noise is Champ Medici right now. I can't see no further than that, because either you would maybe too technical focused, you'd be too like a business focus, but you need some icon to be the dots, to be the dot connector. I think it's great to have Champ stepping out to be the person.
Thank you, Roy. Thank y'all, team. Appreciate it.
So for the last, we have about 5-10 minutes left here. We'll take a few questions from the audience, about 2 or 3.
Don't be shy, y'all.
Yeah.
So if anybody would like to ask any questions, now would be the time.
Yeah. Give him a second to think about it.
Is there somebody in the crowd that
See
can
his
Oh,
hand
yeah,
down
there's
there.
someone there.
We gotta probably give him a mic.
Yeah, do you want to come up? Or come near? We give him a mic? I don't
Yeah,
know
come
how it
on.
works.
Why not? I mean, I could
Sorry,
get up
just
and walk
scaring the
around.
security. Get him up stage. You got a mic there? Yeah. Oh, that's something.
It works.
Mine's attached, so unless you're coming real close.
Yeah, so I
Wait,
just,
tell us your name. Tell us where you from, brother.
yeah, my name is Jay. I have a YouTube channel. I'm from Boston, Massachusetts. I'm a huge fan of you guys. I have a quick question. Did we ever find out who the fuck Uncle Sam was? Or is that still under debate?
I mean, tax season is right around the corner, so I'm pretty sure I'm gonna meet Uncle Sam eventually.
So the real question is this. I think of Shiseido. I think of some of these Coca-Cola company, and I think how they have a bunch of mini brands under them. Mm-hmm. I think by giving IP to holders like you guys and other projects have, it's super fascinating, because when brands come into the space that are established, they don't want to really give away their IP like that. So it's kind of a way to compete as a startup Web3 NFT project. Mm-hmm. Do you think that you'll be encouraging potentially the kind of mini brand? I've seen you guys talk about this a lot, but do you think it'll ever get to the point where we have Claynation as the Empire Coca-Cola company, and then you just have all of these mini brands? I see Lena's face. She's a little.
Yeah. We'll be
That's kind
more
of what I think
environmentally
about when I think
conscious.
about Claynation. So that's what gets me excited to be a Clay holder.
Yeah.
Any thoughts?
Thanks very much. Cheers for that. Oh,
go
cheers.
for it. Oh.
Okay, perfect.
That's
Oh,
dope,
thanks.
bro, that
Yeah, good
you're
question.
looking at it like that.
Yeah.
Honestly, because if you look at Coca-Cola, you look at Apple, you look at Google, they buy out innovators.
Mm-hmm.
Facebook was bought out by Instagram for a reason, because they seen the uprise that it would have. So, Claymates is not just an NFT project. It's a lifestyle brand. It's a conglomerate. Yes, we're in the infancy stage, but that's where we're headed when you say Claymates, when you say Claynation. That's what I see, and that's why I wanted to partner with you guys,
Yeah.
with you
Yeah,
females.
thank you. Yeah, 100%. And we've no, you're good. We have launched a pitch for pitch program, which at the moment is just in its preliminary submission stage. But we are encouraging people within our ecosystem to put forward their ideas. And any great ideas, we want to bootstrap them. We want them to be supported. And I think long term,
Yeah.
absolutely, maybe we'll be buying some of them.
It's a revolution, I think, in terms of how we use IP and how we share content and creativity. And I think that, it's incredibly exciting to see other people use the IP that you've created or you've shared to build something by themselves, and like we're seeing a completely new way of doing things. And I think it only all brings eyes. If someone else wants to go and take their clay and build it into a multi-million-pound brand, then do it, and it's only going to be good for us.
Yeah, we want to see other people succeed.
Absolutely.
And, what's that? Rising tide, something ships. That saying? Anyone? No.
Yeah, sure. Oh, sorry, we lost your
I
mic.
hope someone knew that saying.
Yeah, it's really powerful. I think what Champ said earlier too, and I think you ladies obviously know this, because the IP of Claymation already has so much power to it, but it hasn't been modernized for quite some time. So I loved what Champ said, unicorn, because it's really interesting all the verticals you guys are creating. So it's just awesome. I'm happy
Thank you.
to be along for the ride.
That's very kind of
Thank you,
you.
Thank you so much. Cheers, dude. Yeah, go on, Jay.
So we have another question right back there.
He's gonna give you the microphone. You can
Yeah,
sit right
yeah. we got it set up.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Thank you for being here. My name is Jacob. I'm from the Wolfpack Experience. We're a young project. And Champ, I'm from the 562, Norwalk, California. So my question is, I think a lot of the problem in crypto is that there's a lot of pseudo experts. So when you have young brands who want to come out and get some sort of mentorship, they kind of fall victim to bad advice. I'm currently a law student, so I know a little bit about bad advice. So what are your thoughts on how young projects can skew away from those people who has nefarious reasons to want to onboard them and just take advantage of these rather than providing sound and solid mentorship?
I think Izzy said a great point. She was like, it's up to the buyers to do their due diligence. Like, before I jumped in and bought anything, I would watch Gary Vee on YouTube, like every day for hours, and understand what he meant by only looking to blue chip projects, being on Twitter and hashtagging NFT Twitter and doing certain hashtags and following certain people where you can really just, swift through what's real and what's not. And sometimes it's hard to do that. And I think another place where you can really vocalize your fears is Twitter Spaces, because you got a lot of other great thinkers that's on Twitter Spaces trying to get the same answers as you, and just really putting yourself out there, going to conferences like this and asking questions like that will spark, I think interaction with someone that may have some good insight on where you should be investing, where you should be looking at, and just taking it from the grassroots approach is very important and essential to learning any new business, any new venture, just because nobody knows it all. This is still an infancy stage, but the people that kind of got a grasp on it are the blue chip projects like Claymates, like the Bored Apes, like the Sandboxes, the Bite Cities of the world, and just understanding what they're doing right and how they're, differentiating themselves in this space. Because, like I said, it's a lot. It's in a sense, it's oversaturated. But how do you look at what's here to stay versus what's going to be gone in a few weeks? And it's all about studying and doing the research, the proper research. And you got to treat it like school. You got to really treat it like school. Write notes. Understand what these terminologies mean. What is a whale? What is a cold wallet, a hot wallet? Like, I took my time to understand all those things, so when I was getting, fast talked, I would understand and be able to weave through, oh, this dude full of shit, or this person is, telling me some great knowledge. And you really got to take it upon yourself and really be a student before you could be a teacher, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think just on that real quick, we often get asked how we got successful and what the key to our success was, or what we think the key to our success was. And I think that the important thing here is that there isn't really a recipe right now for success in this space because we're so early, and it's really hard to pinpoint the advice to give someone who's new in the space as a creator or a new project, or even a community member. So I think just to your point about you know, how to avoid the wrong advice, it's like, well, there isn't really right advice necessarily yet. I mean, there are definitely guidelines, of course, about being safe and about doing things with integrity, but like, they're still navigating that sort of recipe to success, and I think that can still be built by whatever you are, and as long as you're sort of authentic and organic to yourself, I think, you know, because you stand a good shot in this space right now.
Yeah, definitely the number one thing I would say is stay true to your vision and don't let people try and tell you what to do. Like, you can take on advice, but don't let them steer your path. That's like the key thing.
Awesome. Great question. I believe we have another question ready right now.
Yep, right here. What's going on, guys? My name is Session Cruz. I'm from New York City. My question is, you know, it seems like there's a lot of builders on the intersection of Web3 and music. They look at the music industry like the evil middlemen. We at DMU, we are looking at integrating with the music industry, not replacing them. I wonder how you guys are looking at that.
I mean, to be completely honest, you know, I sat down with Universal, I sat down with Def Jam and these huge conglomerates. You know, they have billions of dollars in funding and they could do it without us. And sometimes they kind of look down upon us. And that's why I'm so Web3 pro. Like, the giants at some point are gonna fall. And, you know, that's not just record labels, that's all the conglomerates that are, you know, being middlemen to the artists and the communities. And in a sense, you gotta just, I think, build it on your own and not try to involve them, because if they knew, they would have done it themselves. And, you know, it kind of disrupts their work of business and their numbers. And, you know, they're all about the bottom line, how much they're taking home. And, you know, Web3 disrupts that a bit for them. And it gives artists a different sense of empowerment, you know. So it will be a hard battle. I'm not saying don't go face the battle, but just pick your battles, you know, wisely, because they are a conglomerate and they've been here for 50 plus years. And, you know, they have the same resources we have. It's just a matter of, are they going to do it or not? And I think you'll see them come when this becomes more, you know, massively adopted globally, like they always do. You know, like I said, Facebook bought out Instagram because they seen what could happen if, you know, Facebook wasn't involved. And it's so many other examples and stories where the conglomerate buys out the young innovator. Nike bought out Artifacts, you know, and you're going to keep seeing that. Everybody has a number, a price. But you just got to look at how can you build it yourself until you get their attention. That's how I feel about it.
To piggyback on something that Champ said, we've been working very closely with a lot of these companies, and what I believe is what's going to need to happen is, you know, the music industry was comfortable with selling CDs and selling records on the Apple Store, but eventually Spotify forced their hand, and Apple Music and things like that forced their hand into having to accept streaming. The same thing will eventually happen in Web3. It's just a matter of who's going to be the one to shift the paradigm on that. But eventually it will happen.
We want to be there.
Next question.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Shadi. I'm from Lebanon, live in Dubai. I know the lady well. Hey, lady. Two quick questions. First one is, you gave very good advice to the bigger projects, but for one-of-one artists like myself, what can Claynation and you guys give us advice, and what can you do to kind of lift those one-of-one voices? Because we kind of drown in the big sea of noise that you guys were talking about first. And second question is, unfortunately at the moment we see a lot of centralization in everything that's done on Cardano. We do have a lot of open sourcing, of course, that's part of our ethos, but in terms of marketplaces, we have mostly centralized marketplaces. And as the ladies know, we are coming up with the first bigger decentralized marketplace. How can we serve you as a bigger project, and how can we help bring you to the forefront in a decentralized way?
So speaking of noise, I couldn't hear you very well because there's a load of noise behind me. So sorry if I kind of miss any of the question. I'll just add one point on the second question, and then if you could just,
I've got
have
the
you got the
first
first
one,
one? Which is sometimes being the little guy or like being the new project forces there to be competition that then benefits the entire ecosystem. So I think that by bringing something new and by being that challenge, it can actually lift the entire space up. So like kind of what you were saying about how Spotify and Apple forced Apple and everything like that to bring Apple Music and streaming service to be accepted. It's the same in our space. Like if everybody just does the same thing over and over and over again, and that's what works, then that's what works. But if somebody does something and they're doing it better, then all of these other ones that were comfortable before will have to bring up their standards. And that creates a healthy competition, which ultimately is going to lead us to innovation.
Yeah, I mean, about on the topic of one-of-one artists, I mean, it's difficult. I think it's actually something we kind of had faced with the challenge of at the beginning, because we were making clay animations, and clay animation takes days to do a couple of seconds. It is labor intensive, it's long, it's a labor of love. So we actually faced this issue at the beginning because we couldn't mint many NFTs because it would take so long to create one NFT. And what the people wanted was one-of-one NFTs. So that's why Clay Nation was born. And okay, so we basically got molded into the rest, and that's definitely not what I would suggest for everyone, of course. I hope that like our platform, we can raise the voices of others. I mean, in the past, I mean, just talking about ourselves, we've done sort of artist in residence spots on our Discord and on our Twitter. I mean, very sort of early days stuff. Like we'd have one-of-one artists put up their work for sale, for auction on our platforms. And that was sort of very low-level stuff. And I mean, there's no reason why we can't incorporate that sort of thing into Clay Nation or into bigger platforms, just to put the eyes onto the artists that are doing this sort of work. And I think that is something that's extremely important to us. It's extremely important to our animator as well, who understands this sort of the craft of that. And yeah, I hope that we can give a platform to those artists as well, because it's super important for the space. I think that it's not just that we have variety and we lift up as many people as possible.
Yeah, you know, to piggyback off what Izzy said, one of the main reasons why I brought Snoop Dogg brand to the Cardano blockchain was because all we were hearing about was Ethereum. And in a sense, I'm like, it gotta be more out there. And before we, collaborated with Claymates, I remember going on Twitter and picking like 5 smaller one-of-one NFT artists and collaborating with them. And at first people were like, why would you collaborate with somebody that's small? Like, and I'm like, because those big artists were small at some point in their career. So we gotta look at it like, it's not just about those blue chip projects, it's also about the artist, the innovator, the next creator. You gotta sometimes put them on your platform so that y'all can all win together. And it's just a good example of playing team ball. You know, the saying and slogan in this space is Wagner, we're all gonna make it. So you gotta really, walk it like you talk it in a sense. And that's why I felt like it was important to collaborate with not just artists like Cody, where every one-on-one sells for 500 grand, but also collaborating with an artist that's only gonna sell for $5,000 or $500. And, it not being about the money, but you actually, shined your light on that artist and showed other artists that this is the proper way to do business in Web3. Because if we talking about, F the middleman, that's the perfect way to really show that and put your actions behind what you're saying. So yeah, it's all about just staying dedicated, bro. And at some point, hopefully a cool artist get to see your work and, have the same mindset that we had and think about how can we lift this person up versus how much can they pay me.
Yeah. Good question.
So we'll take our last 2 questions.
Yes, hello. My name is Alexa. On Twitter, I'm known as CookTime, co-founder of Cardano Women, UI UX designer. So my big question is, how do you guys view Twitter Spaces regarding marketing? And do you think it's enough to only market and advertise on Twitter? Should there be other overlap on Instagram, TikTok, and all those platforms? Yeah. Thank you.
Great question. So something Shiv and Amador and Snoop Geek Squad did when we created Death Row NFT back in March. Every time we would buy an NFT, what we would do was we would buy the NFT and use that NFT as the cover art for the song. For example, we bought A World of Women because I felt like it wasn't enough representation for women in the space. So I had my father, Snoop Dogg, buy the World of Women NFT, and we recorded him buying it, and we put it on Twitter, and then we said in an hour we'll be on Twitter Spaces to talk about why we bought it and why we made this song. So in a way, we created press conferences, and we did that through Twitter Spaces. We'll be on the stage and we would talk about why we felt like that was a good buy, why we felt that we should make this record. And I believe we would do like 200 quantities of that song and, make it very affordable, and they would instantly sell out because you were walking people through your artwork versus just, it being very like behind the avatar, not giving a proper background on it. People love storytelling, and I felt like Twitter Spaces was the perfect place to tell the narrative of what you're creating and be able to show your mind and, show a different side of how Web3 works. And from there, we were able to meet other creators. We were able to meet other women in NFTs and, really get to connect with people on a different level. Just because it was a guard down environment. Everybody had their guards down, and everybody was so willing to learn and willing to ask questions, similar to today. So we just took on the approach of, we're going to market these NFTs through Twitter Spaces, and hopefully people can tweet about it. And then taking it a step further with, Roy, when we announced that we'll do a weed farm in the metaverse, we made sure that we reached out to all the biggest press outlets to push that narrative out there and encourage other, cannabis brands to come on over to Web3, because sometimes all you need is that article to spark the interest. And at times it's hard because you're hearing all the cons about you're gonna get scammed, you're gonna get this, you're gonna get that. And sometimes it's just about having fun and just pushing out a fun narrative, regardless of how much money you're gonna make, what is the fun behind it? And then the funds will follow.
Yeah. I was just going to add, there are so many different platforms, and it's really difficult to navigate which one to use. We actually struggle with this in terms of people saying, get a TikTok, get Snapchat. I didn't even know people were still using Snapchat, apparently. They are. And, there's loads of different platforms. I think the most important is to do one really well, and then you can think about the next ones. There's no point doing 20% on 5 platforms. You need to give 100% to one, in my opinion. Or maybe 50-50 on 2.
No, Twitter is a powerhouse.
Twitter is definitely a powerhouse.
In the NFT scene right now, and I think there's no denying that. And we know from experience that's where we built a lot of our success at the beginning, at least. And now, we are looking to other places. And of course, marketing is important in lots of areas, and it's not just Twitter. And in-person events, this is something that we're experiencing this weekend and last, if you guys were at CNFTCon. But it's so important to still, in this, even though we're all dealing in Web3 avatars, monkey pictures and whatnot, it's really important to see the people behind the screens, behind the projects, and the community as well. And to get to know people and market in that way as well. And we had an amazing response from CNFTCon last week, and I just don't know if we would have had that had we held a really elaborate Twitter space or something, you know what I mean? And so I think, it's hugely important to go beyond Twitter for sure, but there's no doubting that is basically what got us here today.
Yeah, and definitely. All right, I think
awesome, guys. Thank you so much for answering the questions. Appreciate these questions and
Thanks
your time.
for the questions.
Thank you guys for joining us.
All right, well done.